Hey divers, how's it going? It is Wednesday, May 20th, 2020. And thank you all for joining us on Facebook Live. We appreciate it. Let's see who is here with us. Make sure that you give us a hello in the comment section or give us a thumbs up, a heart, or a smiley face to let us know that you're watching. Awesome. So if you don't know me, my name's Nicole. I'm your Force-E social media and event gal. And we appreciate you guys hanging there and doing these Facebook Lives with us while we cannot hold these in the store because we're still, you know, the stores are open, but we have to limit how many people we can put in the store. And, you know, sometimes these spearfishing, you know, events tend to be, you know, good time. Right, guys? All right.
Yeah, I've heard.
All right, so as you know, May is our Force-E Spearfishing month. What we like to do is give you some cool deals and give you some good knowledge and info about spearfishing for anybody who's new to it or are, you know, seasoned pros. So go over to our website, www.force-e.com, and you can see all of our cool events and our sale that's going on. We have, during our spearfishing month, we have guns, accessories, spear poles, they're all on sale, up to 15% off. But tonight, because you guys are watching us live, we have a promo code. It is called the Spearo Hero promo code. That's SPEROHERO, and that gives you an additional 5% tonight and tomorrow to go shop on our website. It turns off on Friday. And the reason why it's turning off on Friday is it's Memorial Day weekend, guys. So if you have plans to go out and dive or want to come out and see us, come on down to the shops. We have an awesome Memorial Day weekend sale planned with things that are almost up to 30% off. So you want to come down and check out and see what we have. That's going on until the 25th. So make sure that you also go on our website because we have some stuff, a promo code for the weekend if you can't get down to the stores. All right, so you don't want to listen to me, right? So let's start this party. All right, everybody, get your favorite drink. Let's see. We've got our favorite drinks. All right, and let's crack it open.
Oh, I've already opened mine.
Cheers. Cheers. Okay, and Kevin, if you could go ahead and lead us with the next part. I'm sorry,
yes.
CJ.
Yeah, so we jumped the gun on that one, but yeah, we're going to do a moment of silence for our good friend, Kevin. He was an avid diver in the South Florida area, firefighter. A lot of people really cared about him as a friend, and, you know, he was a great role model. So we're going to do a moment of silence for him and take the next couple seconds for that. All right, so we're going to raise our glasses. Cheers to him. So for those of you who don't know, Kevin did pass in an accident that was non-diving related. He was a very safe person. So with that said, we're going to segue into spearfishing through the ages with Chiefy.
Not just Chiefy. All right, guys. All right, so let's go ahead and have you guys introduce yourselves. Let's see.
Oh, guys first. Oh, stop it. Yeah. Hey, I'm being cut out. All right. All right. Hey, I'm Chiefy. I was a division fire chief, so very, very comfortable in the firefighting paramedic world. And some of that actually relates to how I got involved in diving, which you'll see. But I've been retired now 13 years, and pretty much all I do is dive and spear fish and catch lobster and write books, catching the spirit. That's me.
Yeah, so my name's Farrell Tiller. I'm a freediving instructor here at Force-E. I'm a native South Floridian. I grew up here, so fishing, diving, that's kind of in my blood. And so I sort of, you know, CJ and I, we're the same age. We kind of grew up before the social media era that kind of came around, like high school, college. So the world kind of wasn't as connected as it was back then, and it was kind of harder to meet like-minded people. So I went to school at Florida Atlantic University, and around my junior year, I think, I saw that someone had started a spearfishing club at Florida Gulf Coast University. I thought that was awesome, and I wanted to start one at FAU. So that guy happened to be CJ, who's on this call with us. He was super awesome, super helpful in helping us get started, and that sort of changed my life. That introduced me to people like Chiefy. Some other, top names in the industry really liked the idea of a college spearfishing club and wanted to help us out. They volunteered their time to come out and do presentations like we're doing now. So, I'm happy to pass that information along. I love being a freediving instructor, and I think spearfishing is an awesome sport. So I'm happy to pass that info along. So.
Okay.
Oh, it's me now. All right. So, yeah, as Farrell mentioned, the FAU Spearfishing Club and the FGCU Spearfishing Club was a big start for me. I moved from Miami, where it's easy to go off the coast and do beach dives even, right? And when I moved to Fort Myers, it was a lot harder to find people to go offshore with. And so I started the Spearfishing Club. Through that, I met Farrell and a bunch of other people. Fast forward a couple years later, graduate college, and I started a pole spear brand, Neritic. And so for the last couple of years, I've been running that. And just recently, we started coming out with things like wetsuits and fins and spear guns and all the other things that you need to spearfish. So it's been an awesome ride. I've met some really cool people, and I can't say enough about the community and just the overall group of people that I've met because of this.
All right, awesome. Okay, guys, so this is how it's going to work. We have a few questions to get these guys talking, so we'll start with our questions. But if you have any questions, make sure to type them in the comments, and we will ask our Spear Pros here. Also, if you're just joining us right now, make sure that you grab your favorite snack and your favorite drink. All right, and let's get started. So where are we here?
Keep it down, please. Keep it down. Come on, will you?
Okay, so Chiefy, how have you seen the sport evolve over decades?
Decades. I've probably been diving longer than these two young guys have been alive. Okay. So that, I don't know if that says good things or bad things, but it's changed a lot. So I learned, actually, it wasn't called free diving. I was a skin diver. And we do have a slide about that, where I had pretty cool, oh, well, yeah, now, of course. Oh, that's great. Because back then it was very primitive. Our equipment was not very streamlined. It was heavy. I learned, I had a JBL, and by the way, that's me over there. I think I was in the Virgin Islands, scuba diving. But I actually learned to, we didn't call it free diving, we called it skin diving. And I want to say it was back in the late 80s. Yeah, that's probably about it. And I had a gig going where I was teaching the emergency medical technician course. I was a paramedic and firefighter for the college, Broward Community College back then. And we had a gig going with Norwegian Caribbean Lines. So they would send me to this remote island for a week to teach the course. And they were actually instructors. They wanted them to be EMTs. So they taught me how to dive. I had a mask, long fins, and I shot my very first hogfish using a Hawaiian sling in that little pretty cove right there. And I was hooked after that. I came back though, and I got scuba certified. But there was no such thing as a dive computer. We actually had tables, but I did have a BCD. I had a weight belt, and that was pretty much it. So it was kind of funny. I started off with long fins, right? Being a so a skin diver. Then when I went to scuba diving, oh no, you can't have those long fins. And it's funny now that I'm scuba diving primarily, that's all I use is long fins. And but we do some blue water stuff. Just mix it up a little bit. But it has changed. First of all, the equipment has changed. We'll get more into maybe what we're seeing out there as far as fish and all. But I think our tactics are a little different. And so we got to pay attention to that a little bit. Water and all that good stuff. Oh, there you go. I was 40. By the way, bring that slide back up. Can I see that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. All right. So that's me in the middle right there. I was 40. I was a stud. Okay? Just remember that. Okay. It was Chris on the one side and half on the other. And then we would go down to Key West to the channels, and we would scuba dive in the channels. And I mean, it was hard diving. Not fun, but the lobster were there. Yeah. We would go down for lobster season. So it was just to me, it became very social. These were guys that were in the fire department with me. So we got to a point where, God, there was 12 of us, 3 boats. It was quite the deal. Now that was my first boat there. It was a Dusky, 23 foot.
Nice.
Yep.
Awesome. All right. Next question. Chiefy, what changes have you noticed in the reef conditions and the fish populations and water quality?
Well, it's funny, Nicole, because you and I were part of our Florida reefs, which really deals with kind of from Biscayne north, and we have noticed that the water quality has deteriorated a lot. Mm-hmm. And I wish I knew the answer of why, but the combination of 6 million people living in our Tri-County area, the outflow from the lake, we have those stink holes, we call them still, there's a few still around.
Yeah.
And the runoff, the rain, stormwater runoff, I think is a big factor. Particularly, we've got everything is covered now. We've got, asphalt and buildings and things. So yep. That ends up out in the ocean. And so I have absolutely seen a deterioration of the reefs. As far as the fish, I mean, we're fortunate here. It's absolutely beautiful here. I mean, we're the white sandy beaches. Yep. We can go swimming off the beach. We can dive, wrecks, reefs.
But we also have the FWC that helps regulate and
I'm
research.
A big supporter of that. Other than the hogfish thing, but I understand why. They should have done from 12 inches to 16 inches back 10 years ago. Then we wouldn't have this 6-month moratorium and only taking one per person. But I shot a nice 18-inch hogfish today. I felt good. Yeah, I felt good. It was enough for one person.
So you're out on the water almost every day.
Not every day, but almost.
So you see, firsthand what's going on down there. So you think the regulations for groupers and hogfish and muttons are starting to help a little bit? You're starting to see some more quality fish out there on the reef.
Yes, I do think, and I'm a big supporter of that. The FWC, they go about it in a scientific way that they say these species are, overfished. We need to protect them. Yeah. And so they go through a process, which I'm okay with. I like that process. And when they come out with a rule, I understand why they've got that rule. Now, it was kind of weird. We dove on the West Coast on Sunday, and we couldn't shoot gag grouper. What the heck is going on there, right?
How many did you see?
We saw a ton. We saw a ton. But I was glad that Captain Bill told us, can't shoot any gag grouper. But it's funny, we don't really see a lot of gag grouper here. But Farrell, I think you see some up there. So we're seeing, we shot a few gag grouper, black grouper. I'm not a big red grouper guy because kind of easy. But, but they taste okay.
Hey, Chiefy, since we're on that subject, Bill Utterback wants to know, how does the reef deterioration impact your hunting?
There's dead parts of the reef and live parts of the reef. I'm always looking for the live parts of the reef. live parts of the reef hold flying lobster. They also hold lionfish, right? And they hold other fish. So when you get to a part of the reef that's alive, that's good. When you have dead reef, it's dead. There ain't nothing to hunt. There's nothing to shoot. There's nothing to catch. So that I think is important as far as maintaining that reef. That's a good question.
Helen wants to know, do you see a population of the lionfish decreasing over the years?
In shallower, yes. Matter of fact, when we do our lionfish stuff, tournaments and things like that, we are mainly deeper in that 85 to 100 foot level, which a lot of our recreational divers may or may not want to do. I did shoot 2 nice fat lionfish today. Missed a couple, by the way. And we were on the 3rd reef today. So, but we're not seeing, like when I talked to Charlie, and I think you're doing a lionfish seminar next week, right? With Charlie and Ali from Zookeeper. So for me, in close,
it looks like I am live now. Can you hear me?
We're right. I mean,
you guys can hear me. All right, cool. I can't hear you. So I guess this question is for me. What changes have you?
Tell him to close the link and try it again.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, guys, just a little technical difficulties here. All right, let's go here to. This is Chiefy's newest photos.
Whoa! Look at all those catches.
Variety, buddy. Variety. Black grouper. When we shoot at least one, or a day or whatever, that's a good thing for us. And of course, there are restrictions now of the size. And God, I think I remember it's probably been in close to 10 years that they've had that restriction now of 4 months from January 1st to May 1st. So that's been good. Hogfish, they changed that up a lot. That was a big change over here on the Atlantic side. Lionfish, let's continue to take and harvest lionfish. They're really delicious. They're good eating. And I've been doing more and more of them. I'm telling you, it's something to do. Of course, lobstering. A lot of that depends. Like 2 years ago, after Irma blew out the Keys down there, and a lot of the commercial guys were affected. I think that's
a good run.
We had a great run. That next year, God, they were everywhere, and a lot of shorts. And I think, I'm kind of seeing some good things this year. It started off slow. And the kingfish, what the heck is a kingfish doing up on 50 feet of water? But hey, first of all, I had to recognize that it was a kingfish, and yes, I could shoot it. So that was kind of fun. I was lucky. I stoned it. I know I'm usually not that good.
Nice.
All right, so Chiefy, if you could offer one piece of advice to the younger generations of spearfishers, what would it be?
Stay off your cell phone. I thought that was kind of cute, right? Be careful of that social media. It's bad for you. No, and you guys are funny when you say, well, you didn't have social media back in high school, right? How about me?
I think we had MySpace. We had MySpace.
Yeah.
CJ, knock it off, buddy. Come on. But I try to keep up with the times, and that's what inspires me, or that type of thing. We have to maintain. We have to make sure that we're still able to harvest as recreational scuba divers, because in the United States we can do that.
Yeah.
There's no really, you go to other places of the world and you can only free dive and harvest.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So that's a biggie, and that's why a lot of people will get into free diving.
Yeah.
To go spearfishing and in these remote places and shoot 300-pound tuna. Right. I'm cool with that, but for me, I like maintaining what I have out here. I think we need to make sure that we become stewards of our reefs. I only harvest things that I want to eat.
Right.
It's not like I'm going out there and just killing everything.
Right.
we're selective, and I think that's the basis of being a spear fisherman.
Right.
It's very primitive. It's something that, hey, I'm 66, but this thing's been, spearing fish has been going on for many, 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 many years. As a matter of fact, Jay Reif just passed away. And you talk about a leader and a legend. I had an opportunity to interview Jay Reif and to go on a tour of the Reif factory in California when I was writing my book. By the way, I have to say, Catching the Spirit, it's a great book if you're really into spearfishing.
Where can you get that?
You could probably get this at any reputable dive store, including Force-E. Oh.
Hey, guess what? Hey, Skip. Hey, Skip. How's it going? Hey, Skip.
And if you buy a Koa spear gun, you get a free one of these. How about that?
So I think I would just add to that, Chiefy, too, for the younger generations. One of the advantages of social media and just having all this information at our fingertips now is it's so much easier to become a spearfisherman. You can take a freediving class, you can learn from other people, you can join a club and really fast track yourself versus when you started spearfishing.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you even read books? You read books? I think that's the question here. Do you guys read books, or is it strictly YouTube and Instagram?
Is that a book or is that a magazine? I'm not sure.
It's an ancient hieroglyphics.
Listen, if it's not a TikTok, they're not watching.
All right, so we're moving on. Hey, CJ, we got a question for you. How has spearfishing gear changed over time?
Oh man, it has definitely changed a lot. I mean, to start, and although it was part of a cycle, I mean, roller guns used to be a thing back in like the 80s, and then they disappeared for a while, and then for the longest time, it was just traditional spear guns, right? Traditional slotted bands. And then we started seeing, roller spear guns were everywhere, and that's what everyone wanted. And then likewise, pole spears did the same thing, right? Pole spears had a traditional band that looped around and connected through the backside. And then next thing we know, there starts being roller pole spears to give you some of that extra range. And it changes the velocity, initial velocity versus terminal velocity of the shot itself. So we've seen that change. Fins, right? Chiefy, you could probably they have cone fins in the 80s.
Carbon fiber fins.
Carbon fiber fins? No, I don't think so.
No, yeah.
No,
so
no.
obviously,
rubber, and they were really hard rubber.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, even then, right? The foot pockets. So foot pockets back in the day used to be that really hard rubber, and even over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen the different compositions of rubber become softer on your foot and more comfortable on your foot. However, the transfer of power from your leg to the blade of the fin, regardless of whether it's plastic, fiberglass, or carbon fiber, we've seen that improve a lot as well. Fits, right? The way that it fits on your foot itself also helps with that transfer of power. Even into the wetsuits, right? I mean, wetsuits used to be bulky and they didn't feel great. And now, we have open cell versus closed cell. We have different types of stitching that allows it to be, and material that the neoprene itself is getting stretchier, warmer, thinner. It's better all around. It's a lot better.
CJ, you guys still wear Speedos?
Some people go commando underneath theirs, but that's personal preference.
Diver guys, I know that. Yeah.
So some people actually wear full bathing suits underneath their bottoms, and I don't know how they do that. I think you do, Farrell, right? No.
Commando under the wetsuit. Definitely.
Yeah. It's just, it bunches up. It's too much going on. It's
We've gone to the full Speedos, not the little Speedos.
All right.
Nicole doesn't like these conversations going.
I got scared. I started thinking about Chiefy, and I don't know if that's somewhere I want to go.
Please do, Farrell.
Hey, you talked about wetsuits and going from closed cell to open cell. I think that's something that's really misunderstood in freediving and spearfishing. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So I want you to literally imagine when we talk about open cell, a sphere, a circle, right? That is the open cell, right? When you talk about oh, there we go. It's like backwards. Like I'm like going to the right. It's so this is a closed cell, right? It's completely closed, completely sphere, right? That's essentially what's against your skin. The open cells are these little cups. There we go. These little cups, and it allows air to get trapped in here, and so that air creates that layer between you and the wetsuit, and it actually allows you to warm up the air in between that. Furthermore, the open cell suits, the seals on them don't really allow water to transfer back and forth if it fits properly. So the little bit of water that is in there mixed with the air that's now in those cups of those open cells, it just makes it a lot warmer, right? And because it's not a complete closed cell, the material itself is actually stretchier because it doesn't have that completed loop. It is that open half cell, if you will. They should call it half cell instead of open cell. But you know that. So what we found is that it's much more comfortable, much warmer. But in the beginning, they were much less durable, right? If you had your fingernails on the inside of your neoprene, you would rip it if you didn't put it on the right way. If you didn't lube up with conditioner or baby soap or you name it, whatever it is, you might rip them. I mean, that was a problem for a lot of people too. And even the outsides, they would, after diving so much, they would start getting compressed to the point where they became paper thin and rip easier. But I mean, across the board, it's not one company in particular, but we've seen the open cell technology become significantly better, and the neoprene and the rubber manufacturers actually become much better. And I'm actually starting to see a lot of scuba guys where in the past they wouldn't wear an open cell wetsuit because the BC on their back was just too much. You would find that the tank and sometimes the holster and the way it would rip the back of the suit, or a lot of things going on. You've got the stringers hanging on. We're starting to see some of the scuba divers start to wear it now because it's much more comfortable wearing a 3mm open cell wetsuit than a 7mm closed cell when you're at depth and it's 62 degrees.
That's exactly right, CJ. I hear it from scuba divers all the time. When they get their first open cell wetsuit at 3mm, they say, "Oh my God, my 3mm open cell keeps me warmer than my 5mm closed cell." So yeah, it really is a big difference.
Plus, you guys look really cool. You really do. I mean, you know, you got all these fresh designs and stuff like that. Really neat.
Yeah. We try to keep some really cool designs. I actually just came out with one. I really like it. It's like a darker blue and black. It's pretty cool. You might lose somebody, so you always want them to wear, you know, yellow or white, you know, on the snorkel or the weight belt or something, just so you can identify them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree, CJ. I think that's kind of a misconception that you know, the camo wetsuits will help you blend in and get more fish. I don't think the fish notice the colors.
Oh, no.
I actually have something to say about this, and I don't know which direction it goes, right? Fish, sharks, marine animals, they sense electromagnetism, right? We know that for a fact. GoPros give off electromagnetism. Now the question is, does it scare them away or does it attract them? And until we have a clinical setting, I don't know, right? And I think it would be fish to fish, right? Just like people or dogs, everyone acts differently. Maybe they're hungry and they're curious. Maybe they're scared because they recently were attacked. Who knows? But Hex, the wetsuit company that they actually aren't a wetsuit company any longer, but they actually had a technology where they were able to hide some of that electromagnetism from your body from escaping via the wetsuit. They sold it to some Navy company or something like that. And basically that's the last I've heard of anybody being able to do something like that. But I don't think the camo really matters.
It's an interesting question, CJ. We'll pose it to the audience. Two questions here. One, do you think camo wetsuits help you as a spearfisherman? And two, do you think the GoPro hurts you as a spearfisherman? I'm curious to hear if people have experiences with that.
I can tell you this. If I have a GoPro running, guaranteed I am not shooting a big fish. And guaranteed I'm not even seeing a fish. As soon as the GoPro is off, everything's coming up to me.
I'm in agreement with you.
Really?
Well, I mean, similarly, if I have a spear gun in my hand things are a little bit more wary. They don't really want to come close to me, right? As soon as I put down the spear gun and I pick up the camera, I mean, you saw it last time you were diving with me, Farrell. I mean, I had African pompanos circling me.
Oh yeah, they know. They know when you don't have a weapon in your hand for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So you just got to trick them, pretend like you don't have a weapon, but you really do.
So CJ, we got a question here. With all the advances in spearfishing equipment, how come you still primarily use a primitive gear, which is the pole spear?
Okay, so besides the fact that I own a pole spear company, so besides that, I started the company because I was such a pole spear advocate. Actually, a gentleman by the name of Carl Keller gave me my first pole spear, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, 8, 9, something like that, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And I started using it, and it was within the same year that the world records first came out. And so when the world records first came out, I mean, it was easy. Anything that you shot pretty much was a world record. Now, I mean, we have some incredible records, right? You have Luke's 130-pound Kubera snapper. You have, some of these massive, I think now that's like 80 pounds on the Wahoo, 60-pound Mahi, the black grouper is 100+ pounds. I mean, the records have gotten substantially up there where people aren't breaking the records every single month. So at first, that's what it was about for me, was I wanted to break records. And then I started realizing that it's so much more challenging. So similarly, for anyone who's listening who hunts, you have rifle hunting and bow hunting, and you have to get much closer to the animal. You have to have a much better hunting technique. You have to understand the environment. You have to understand the characteristics and behaviors of the animal that you're hunting. And I think that it makes you a much better hunter. I mean, for almost 5 years, I didn't pick up a single spear gun once. And I even participated in tournaments where everyone else was using spear guns. And actually, this picture to the right of me with that cobia, that's a 54-pound cobia out of here on the West Coast, where everyone was shooting guns. And at the captain's meeting, everyone was making fun of me. They're like, oh, there's no way you're going to place or do this or that. And well, I came in first place with that cobia. And I disagree. I think you can get close and you can catch really, really big fish with a pole spear. It comes down to if you're going to have the discipline and to master the craft. I mean, once I started playing around with prototypes of, there's another one. There's an 80-pound black grouper there, with the pole spear. But once I started playing around with spear guns and I was going to come out with a spear gun, I started playing around with it, and it was so much easier. After using a pole spear for 5 or 6 years and using a spear gun for the first time, I was kind of shocked to see how easy it was. I mean, almost all my shots were, I was stoning the fish, or, I actually found that a lot of times I was trying to get way too close to the fish. I was like, oh, I could have gotten so much closer. And somebody who was above me was like, dude, you were right on that fish. And that's just because I was so used to needing to get within that 10-foot range for a pole spear. Whereas now, I can lights out shoot at 20 foot and, you could just see the difference. But that's why I use pole spears. And a lot of people actually started to do that. So initially, again, people were chasing those records. Now that the records aren't as easily attainable, I think people are actually switching over to pole spears once they've knocked off that checklist, right? We all have a checklist. Okay, I want a 50-pound black, or a 50-pound cobia, or, a 30-pound Kubera, or a 20-pound African pompano, whatever your bucket list fish is, right? You go down the list and you check them all off. Once you've done that on spear gun and you've done it maybe once, maybe twice, maybe 3 times, the reason why we spearfish is, one, because we like to eat the fish and it tastes good and it's fun. But once you've done something so many times, I think everyone's looking for a new challenge. So it's, okay, cool, I've shot this fish with a spear gun, but can I do it on a pole spear, right? I've shot tuna, I've shot wahoo, I've done all those things with a spear gun, but I haven't shot a wahoo, I haven't shot a tuna with a pole spear. So those are on my to-do list. Actually, even that marlin, I've shot a marlin with a spear gun, but that's on my to-do list this year, is to knock those down with a pole spear for sure.
So I have another question here. Can you hear us?
Yeah.
All right. The world is a lot bigger now and improved technology, and you can access information, and travel means that it may be easier than ever to be a global spearo. Tell us about some of the places you've been.
All right. Yeah, I like this format where we have everyone back because I'd love to hear back because I know Farrell's done his fair share of traveling with the masked men of Mexico. But some of my favorite places, and I go back there every year, is Costa Rica and Baja. I mean, some of the fisheries there are incredible. I mean, I can sit here and talk about the Bahamas, and that's probably what most people are familiar with because, especially on the East Coast, we're only a couple hours away. Day trips or even weekends, or sometimes extended into weeks or months for some people. But I really like going to Central America. One of the things I love about Central America is one, I was born in Miami, so I do speak Spanish, and I love going there with friends that don't speak Spanish, and automatically I become valuable for once, right? And so that's always fun is being translator. But I love just immersing myself in the culture, right? Like I love a perfect example is I go down to a place called Pavones with Sean Hascup, and he runs a charter company called Hascup Hunts. And when I go down there, I'm in an area that has no more than 100 people. The first thing that shocked me was I picked up a coffee and wanted to walk down the street, and I was like, oh well, I got to slam this before I can go down and watch the sunrise on the beach, which was less than 25 yards from like where I was staying. And they're like, oh, no worries, just bring it back at the end of the day. And I was like, what? This is crazy. This is awesome, because they had the glass cups, not, paper cups there. And it's just the people are nicer. They're more honest, I found, more often than not. There's the misnomer that when you travel abroad that people are going to be looking to rip you off and rob you and I'm sure those things do happen, and I know people that it has happened, but they're in areas where you don't know somebody who has been there before or understands the environment that they're bringing you to. But for the most part, everything that I've seen is people are excited to see you there. They need the tourism. So they definitely enjoy having you there. But Pavones in Costa Rica, definitely one of my favorites. Baja is by far the most unique. I think unique is the word I'm going to use. I'm talking less than, it's similar to the East Coast, right? Less than half a mile offshore, you're shooting big grouper. I mean, huge grouper, right? You got the broomtails, you got the Gulf grouper, then you have the random, yellowtails or, hamachi, right? They're swimming through, that's awesome. And then you go maybe another quarter mile in any direction. And next thing you know, it's wahoo, mahi, rooster fish. I mean, you name it. I mean, it's probably one of the most diverse areas that I've been in, and then of course, I've done, the Mexico thing. I've done, you go to the Tortugas, you go to Costa Rica, Panama, all these places. But sometimes nothing beats your own backyard. I mean, I'm here in Fort Myers, and I'll do a shameless plug. Of all the places I've been, I could do the oil rigs in Louisiana, and nothing beats shooting your home waters and shooting an incredible fish. And to be honest, I would put Fort Myers fishing up against some of these world-class locations for being diverse and just incredible fisheries. I think the Southwest Florida fishery could go up against some of these other places that I've gone all over the world. And I mean, I've even seen Farrell.
You better be careful there, buddy. You're going to have a lot of visitors to your area.
Hey, they can come out. You got to find that little crack, right, Chiefy? The 6-inch crack. It's hard to find unless you know what you're looking for. You go out with some of the charter guys.
What we have here, white sandy beaches. You can actually swim right off the beautiful white sandy beaches. You can actually harvest fish right there. Lobster, right. You have any lobster over there? Oh, wait a minute.
You're right. We don't have many lobster, but
what you do
when they come to the boat, they're bigger than all 10 of the lobster that you got.
I know. They're two-handers. You don't need a measuring device.
Yeah. I mean, I know they say that bigger isn't always better, but I mean, Farrell, talk to me. What do you think? I mean, you did the thing in Mexico, but you did it on the Caribbean side. I've always gone Pacific side.
Yeah, so that was an awesome trip. We went to Isla Mujeres, which is a little island off the coast of Cancun. Super easy trip. I think from Fort Lauderdale Airport, it was like less than 2 hours, and JetBlue flies direct every day of the week. So it was an awesome trip. The spots were deep. Everything was like 80 to 100 plus, and but big, massive Cubera snappers, big black groupers, big African pompano. Everything there is just huge. And what we did, we started at the island Isla Mujeres, and we ran north. And what the guy that we dove with, Valente, he was kind of telling us that's kind of where the currents kind of start in the Gulf of Mexico. So there's a ton of fish there. And then another interesting thing about that area, I can't remember the island off the top of my head, but it's a major breeding ground for frigate birds. It's like the
Frigates.
Yeah, so Yucatan, the islands off the coast of the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico are covered in frigate birds. There's like hundreds of thousands go there every year to nest. So we actually got to see that, which was awesome. It was just like a tornado of big black birds. I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of them. I can't even describe how many there were. But yeah, the spots were epic. It was unbelievable.
So I have a question about the birds. Were they all flying above your head?
There were some that were on the island, like actually there, like in the trees and whatnot. And then there were several like flying around as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that must have been a sight to look up and see thousands of them. You just, keep your mouth closed.
Yeah, it was an incredible trip. But I agree with you, CJ. There's really nothing like spearing out of your home port, with your good buddies. So.
Yeah, well, because I've done this before too. Where you go on a trip with somebody, and just because you went to an area and you can go there the same time of year, the next year, right? The same kind of conditions. It doesn't, and the time before you shot a 60-pound Cubera, it doesn't mean that you're going to catch a 60-pound Cubera this time. And the problem, and this actually kind of goes back to the social media thing, is, people see, oh, well, so-and-so caught this and so-and-so caught that. Well, yeah, they posted the biggest fish they caught while they were there for 7 days or 6 days or 5 days or whatever it was, right? I mean, you don't know if they were in the water for 8 hours a day. I mean, it's about punching that clock. And the one thing I tell everyone is, okay, you're spending thousands of dollars to travel to this country, to go spearfishing, to go do this and do that. Make sure that the prize is not the fish. Because, that's my number one tip about traveling for spearfishing is if you're going there only for the fish, you're doing it for the wrong reason. You're going to be disappointed because unless you land that fish, anything less than that is a disappointment. If you go there because you love hanging out with the people that you're with, you love being able to soak into the culture, eat the food, drive the vehicles down the windy roads and almost fall off a cliff, like the adventure of getting there, flying next to a crying baby or something, right? The trip to get there, right? The whole thing and everything makes up for when you get in the water and you don't know what you're going to see, right? And for me, that's what it's about. And I used to be about, we got to get the fish, and then you're stressed out, and you're stressed until you get the fish, and then you see it with some people, right? The fish happens in the first day, and the stress drops, and the rest of the trip, everyone's able to focus on those other parts.
You know what? It's still the same though. Meaning, 35 years ago, it was still all about social, having fun with your buddies. That to me, it hasn't changed in any of the however many years you've been spearfishing or diving. That's what it's all about. Having fun with your buddies, enjoying the moment, enjoying the time. Yeah, if you happen to land a fish or two, that's great. But time out. Dinner is a must. If you don't catch dinner, then we're having problems. We need to reconsider a hobby.
So if you're just tuning in, we're having a social here with all of our beers. So make sure you grab your beer and your favorite snack.
Mine has a dive flag on.
Yeah. All right. Next question for CJ. What advice would you offer to Sparrows looking to make travel plans? I kind of feel like you already answered that, but is there anything you want to that?
I would actually say something else, even like for the actual traveling itself, right? We talked about make sure you have a good crew because that could make or break your trip, right? If you're going for a week somewhere and you're going with people that you don't know. I've actually done that. We have Helen, CJ, that's so true. I took an epic trip to Costa Rica for a week with my killer mermaids and we didn't land one fish, but it was the best trip ever with my girl. See, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it really is. Because, like, you know, I've actually done a trip. My first trip ever to Mexico, I went with 8 randoms. I went on a liveaboard vessel with actually 7 other randoms. I was the 8th. 8 random people that I had no idea who they were. And I actually made lifelong friends with, you know, 3 or 4 of them. But, you know, there was, you know, a couple people where I was like, dude, I don't want to dive with these people. They're not safe. They're not right. They're not safe. They're not particularly fun once we get back on the boat. You know, like it's just like it changes the mood for sure. So my advice to you is when you're making these travel plans, try to dive with people that you've already dove with. There's nothing worse than being in a third world country where you might have someone that's shooting over the top of your head because they get blinders when they see that big fish, or, you know, they are more worried about landing a big fish and they see you miss the fish and it swims away. So they follow the fish. They don't follow you. You come up to the surface, you hit the surface, you black out. This is for free diving, right? Next thing you know, they're chasing down a fish, you know, and you're sitting there floating. I make sure you know who you're going with. And then I would actually plan, and this is actually, I just thought of this. When you go, if you're going with 4 people, right? There is no reason to have 4 spear guns in one sport tube, 4 wetsuits in another. I always travel with at least 2 pairs of everything. And likewise, some of my buddies do too. What we actually do is I've actually gotten all my friends to meet up at one location before we go. We also fly together. We used to do different flights coming in at different times. And sometimes if, you know, someone's leaving from Dallas or someone's leaving from Pittsburgh and you're leaving from Miami or whatever the case is, right? That does happen. But most of the time, if you can, try to get everyone in the same place beforehand, because what I do is we unpack everything. Everyone's gear is there and it's laid out on the table. We say, okay, what do we have? We have 12 shafts, 5 guns, 2 pole spears, 2 floats, 6 pairs of whatever you have, right? And you basically get a tally to say, okay, well, we don't all need to have 2 pairs of fins because all 4 people aren't going to break blades, right? So maybe we only need to have 2 backup sets, and which sets are the best and which guns are the best and what's the most universal for what it is that we're doing, right? Are we diving murky water? Are we diving blue water? Do we need to have 4 complete float line setups, or should we run 2 float line setups and then have 2 people being safety on top of that, or camera, or whatever the case is? So what we do is we actually disperse the gear evenly amongst bags, because 2014, I was with Chase Ewell and Alex Schultz, the founder of 4Ocean, and we were going to Panama, and my bag got lost. And we couldn't leave the airport without finding that bag, which turns out someone actually took my bag, and we had to get him to come back. But we couldn't leave without that, because once we got to the boat and the boat took us to the island, there was no chance of me diving because there was nobody with extra gear for me. So we had to sit there and wait. And what it ended up with the tidal changes in Panama, you know, you have 20-foot tidal changes. We actually missed the departure because you couldn't get the boat out because the tide went out so far. So we ended up missing the departure, and the whole trip was burnt by a day. Whereas if we had done it the way I do it now, because I can tell you I'll never make that mistake again, ever. You know, I have guns in this bag and fins in that bag and masks in that bag, and it's all at any point in time. If one bag gets lost, leave it. Let the airlines, you know, compensate me otherwise. And you know, that's probably my biggest thing is meet up together and make sure you know who you're with, what equipment you have, and make sure if you lose a bag, it's not the worst thing in the world.
Awesome. All right. Well, I've got a question for Farrell. So, Farrell, how do people learn and stay active within the spearfishing community?
So that's an awesome question, and I'll go back to what we kind of talked about a little bit before. There's so many resources out there that are available. You know, there's really no excuse. So we have our number one rule in the freediving community. Scuba is very similar. Don't ever dive alone. And there's really no excuse for it now. There's so many clubs that are available that you could join. With social media now, it's easier than ever to connect with like-minded people. So we have several clubs in this area. The South Florida Spearfishing Club, Chiefy's a big part of that. They've been around since 1997. Really awesome group. They've got, you know, a couple guys that have boats. They go out all the time. It's a really great cruise. Is there anything else you want to say about that?
Yeah, primarily scuba guys, but you know, we mix in some of them freediver guys. You know, the advantage of freediving is you're silent. You know, you're so we like to mix in those guys. Meaning, you know, scuba. It's hard to shoot fish on scuba. It really is. I mean, you know, they hear you, but when you're a freediver, man, you know, I love taking freediver out and go, hey, by the way, there's a grouper down here we've been chasing. Would you go down there and get it? But yeah, the South Florida Spearfishing Club, about half of us have boats, half of us don't have boats. So we kind of connect and get everyone together, and we go out as often as we can. So it's a good club. It meets here in Pompano. Although the last couple of months we've not been meeting.
Hey, Chiefy, I have a question. You said you like having the mixed scuba versus freedive. Do you ever run over like a bump, or you know you're running and you see a little glitch on the sounder, and you say, hey, I wonder what that's like, and instead of burning a tank, you just send a freediver down to check it out for you?
Well, actually, we kind of do that. Some of my stuff is you know, you're giving away some of my trade secrets, but we'll run up to Highland Beach and there's a little ghost tug and it's in like 30 feet of water, and I'll go, hey, you know, Farrell, jump in here and first of all shoot some fish, because there's nothing else.
There's never any fish there.
No, there is fish there. Come on, there's fish there. But I get a current read, and there are fish there. We have Francisco, who you had 2 weeks ago. You know, Chucky's saying, by the way, there's a cobia that's usually down there. I mean, he goes down there. It was he had to do two dives down to shoot the cobia, but you know, I mean, that's what it. So it was kind of fun, but yeah, I enjoy having you know, freediver guys that will kind of do a little, hey, let's see what's going on down
Little
there.
recon, yeah.
So yeah, Francisco, who's captain of the USA Spearfishing team, good buddy of mine, and he'll actually drive the boat while we tank dive, and then during our surface interval, we throw him on stuff and say, hey, go down there and shoot some stuff, will you? And I do enjoy it. You know, I've got a bunch of buddies that are free divers, and we do, you know, hey, you don't necessarily need to dive really deep down to do this blue water hunting thing. Now,
yeah,
new thing we've mixed in here, CJ.
yeah, I get you. So
we try to catch some mahi, right? So hook and line, bring them in, bring the school in, and then we jump in the water and then we shoot them. So we got guys catching them and we got guys shooting them. There's fish flying in the boat. It's
a bloody massacre. I love it. So actually, I just thought of something right now, you know, talking about the South Florida Spearfishing Club, and they have a bunch of them over in the Tampa region. I think there's like 3 or 4 clubs going on over there. They have one up in the North Dive club. Ryan Rush runs that one. But something that I just thought about even right now is, you know, I do run that Florida Spearfishing tournament, which is online, and it's a big group where there's probably about maybe 5,000 people now in that group. And I mean, you see people, I see it all the time. It's, hey, don't have work today. Anyone looking for an extra diver? And you always see people, or hey, 3 spots, you know, first come, first serve. Or
it doesn't even have to be a formal group, CJ. It could be as informal as a Instagram message or something like that.
They have those too. Yeah, I see these massive groups where it's like you got like 50 people in them, and it's like a random Instagram message group, and people are like, hey, I'm looking for another one.
Right. But back to sort of the original question, you know, if you want to get better at anything, you hang around people that are better than you. So, you know, if you want to get better at basketball, you want to hang around people that are good at basketball. It's the same thing with spearfishing, freediving, scuba diving. If you hang around people that are more experienced, eventually you're gonna gain some of that knowledge. So, the trouble with the clubs that we have, I think Chiefy will agree, is leadership, especially at the college level. You know, we're only in college for a handful of years, so after you graduate, a new leadership group takes over. And then there's some, you know, I would say geographically, some areas in Florida and across the U.S. that don't have any clubs yet. We would love to see, you know, new people step up and start new clubs. Before I recently moved to Palm Beach, I was living in Vero Beach on the Treasure Coast. And we had a small little group of freedivers and spearfishers going up there, but that's just one area that comes to mind where they don't really have a club or anything like that. So we would love to see some more clubs starting up. If you know some people that are interested, or if you yourself are interested in starting one, feel free to message us. We'd be happy to help you, share any information that we could.
Yeah, so what do you think we could do to promote that, right? Like, do you think there's a way that we could get the existing clubs to help create other clubs? I mean, similarly, right, when I had the FGCU Spearfishing Club, I reached out to you, or you reached out to me asking about it, and I was like, yes, awesome. Now we can compete against each other. And, I think maybe it's leverage on, and this could be the wrong answer, but maybe leverage the existing clubs to ask, and create other clubs to compete against.
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that's a good idea, CJ. I think we should have a little sidebar conversation and see if we can't get a couple more clubs popping up here.
All right, so I have a question. Spearfishing has primarily remained a male-dominated sport, but we are seeing huge growth from females recently. What advice can you offer to the ladies looking to get into spearfishing?
That's an awesome question. So these pictures here, that's my girlfriend. The two pictures on the left, that's my girlfriend Kiki, and then the picture on the right is my mom. So they're avid water people and love to spearfish and getting into it. But it's kind of tough when you think about it. It really is a male-dominated sport. I think, CJ, when you think back about our times on our collegiate clubs, we were some pretty rough and rowdy guys. So for girls to come and enter the club, they had to have a lot of courage to do that. So
thick skin.
Yeah. So I give them a lot of credit, and there are some really, really tough women that are spearfishers out there. And I will add, from my perspective, having taught a lot of freediving courses, believe it or not, the women usually do a lot better than the men.
They are. They really are.
Freediving courses, right? Men come in with this attitude, right? They're like, I got this number in my head. I'm going to hit 100 feet. I'm going to join the 100-foot club. And if they don't hit that number, they throw a temper tantrum, which, as you know, CJ, is really the opposite attitude you want to have for freediving. Whereas girls, they kind of just come in with an open mind. Maybe they're in the class because their boyfriend spearfishes, or they saw some cool Instagram photos. Whatever reason they're in, they have this open mind, and they're just like, whatever depth I get is awesome. And they usually end up doing better because they have this attitude.
Dude, they're flexible, right? They do more yoga. They do more of the running and more cardio. I mean, you talk to most of the girls who spearfish, and they're always like, yeah, I went and ran and did this and that. You talk to the guys who are like, yeah, I went to the gym. I picked things up. I put things down. That's the guy thing, right? But
I'll bring it back. Kind of an interesting thing. 1977, I started in the fire service. Right, we had no female firefighters. Right.
Okay.
It's been primarily a male-dominated, business, so to speak. So there's been accommodations as far as the type of equipment now. It's lighter, they're easier to deal with. But I'm going to tell you, I like working with females in the fire service. I hired the first female firefighter in Deerfield Beach. That was Pam, and she just retired a couple of years ago. It's really cool to see people that kind of embrace it. And I like when we have females that are in spearfishing or freediving or scuba diving. It just gives a nice dynamic. The boys are the boys, and the guys are the guys. Okay,
definitely.
And as long as they can kind of try to fit in with that, and that's fine. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
You all right with that? No, stop. Come on.
And just real quick, CJ, I would kind of add to that too. You and I have had this conversation before too. If you're a female and you're watching this broadcast, I encourage you to look at the list of world records for women's, for spear guns and for pull spears. You'll be surprised. There's a lot of them out there that are attainable that women can set, and we'd love to see a few more. I know, CJ, you've had several records have been set on your spears, so.
Yeah, that was actually one of the things I set out to do. Was I wanted to get that woman involvement. I have some incredible badasses that use my stuff. I mean, we're talking Sophia Pallavicini, Lucy Cardet, Sky well, now her name's not Sky Bailey. She married Kyle Howard, so it's Sky Howard. You know, going down the list, I mean, Sherry Day. I mean, some of these people are just, they're really, really, really good in the water. And, you know, when they go out there and they shoot these fish, Cheyenne Lee, perfect example, right? I watched her shoot a 40-pound cobia, and it didn't even give it any room, and pulled it up and then threw it up onto the boat. I mean, it's just like, it breaks all the stereotypes that everyone says. And it's like, listen, you could definitely do it. And I mean, like you said, the girls will surprise you because sometimes they're a little bit more ruthless than they let on to be.
That's right. That's right.
It's all technique. It's all technique.
And they smell better when they get
I don't
back
know.
in.
I don't know. Have you seen Farrell's Goldilocks? His hair always smells good. He's got it conditioned. It's come on.
Oh,
All right. So, Farrell, what type of skills or classes would you recommend for spearfishing?
So yeah, another great question. You know, especially nowadays with the wealth of information that's out there and the classes that are out there, you can really sort of fast track yourself to be a better spearfisherman. Like, you know, Chiefy, growing up, there weren't freediving classes. No. There wasn't, you know, spearfishing tutorial videos, this kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see how it's kind of graduated over time. And most importantly, you know, taking a class is going to make you a safer diver too. So we have classes, we teach freediving classes here at Force-E. This summer, we have them coming up, you know, almost every weekend here. And I think you'll be surprised at how much you learn. You know, I used to be one of the freedivers and spearfishers that said, oh, you know, I don't really want to take a class. I feel like I already knew everything there was to know because I had been freediving and spearfishing for a long time. But once I took that first level 1 class, it was a huge eye-opener to me. You know, I was doing tons of stuff wrong that I thought I was doing right. So I think there's a ton of valuable information to be gained from there. Really recommend that. So
if you are going to get into spearfishing, it's all about fish recognition.
Yeah.
I don't care whether you're a scuba diver or a free diver. You know, go to the aquarium. Oh, that's what a black grouper looks like. That's
or even more than that. That's what, as a black grouper's heading into a hole and all you could see is his tail. You can see the shape and the outline of that tail, or you know that the way that it angles down or slopes down or
curved tail, you can't shoot those. You know.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding.
Those are things, you know. It all starts with that fish recognition, and then we talk about fish regulation, range, depending on what you're, you know, what kind of gun and pole spear or whatever you're using. See the fish, stalk the fish, shoot the fish, and then secure the fish.
And then clean it and eat it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Farrell, I have a question. Let's pretend, right, I'm a student who just finished my level 1, crushed the 66 foot. I don't necessarily want to do the level 2 or intermediate, or depending on what, you know, you use, whether it's PFI, FII, whatever. What's something I could do to get better breath holds, have a better CO2 tolerance, right? Build up some of that CO2 tolerance. Are there classes or any kind of training that I can do without taking another course, right? I don't want to do all the classroom all over again, but I do want to be with a professional and really start focusing in on my technique and what it is that I could get better at, things like that.
Absolutely. That's an awesome question. And it's one that we hear a lot from students that have taken the freediving class and they've gotten the certification, and then they say, you know, now what do I do with it? So Force-E's actually done an awesome job. They've recognized this need and they've started offering some monthly training sessions. So we're doing pool sessions. We're actually doing some ocean line diving sessions too. Because that's really the best way to learn. I mean, CJ, you know this too. You know, when you're out there with a spear gun, you're not really focusing on your freediving technique. You're just hunt. So, you know, to take a day and just leave the spear gun at home, just focus on your technique, be out there with somebody who's a trained professional that can, you know, help you with your technique, give you feedback and kind of give you some tips to get that better. It's really invaluable. It's something that I really recommend. So we'll have a few coming out here soon that we'll be posting, and hopefully you guys will be joining us for that. They're a lot of fun.
And on scuba side, let me just I'll just interject. I like to, hey, I have a boat. I have the Chiefy crew. We're kind of the same group of guys. A dozen, 15 guys and girls that come in and out. But I like to actually go to the West Coast and spearfish. I like to go to the Tortugas and spearfish. I like to go to Jupiter and spearfish. I like to go on different charters to see what other folks are doing.
Okay.
And how they're doing it. I like to go on other people's boats so that I see how they have things set up on their boat.
You do
So,
with the tanks, like tank holders.
I am. Yeah. I think if you do stop learning, then you kind of die. So I think it's important to kind of continue, is particularly in this sport, you're always learning something. Yeah. I don't know everything. I enjoy it. It's a social thing. And yeah, I do like to eat fresh fish. Okay?
And lobster.
The best friends, and these are the ones I get the first invite always, is, and I have some of them, they love to spearfish, but they don't like to eat fish. So usually instead of, if there were 6 guys on the boat, we only split it 4 ways because 2 of them don't like eating fish. So you end up taking home more fish for you. So they get first invites.
I like those kind of friends.
I like that. Yeah, those are good friends.
All right, to all you guys, we want to know, where do you think spearfishing goes from here, and what kind of technology, gear, upgrades will you see in the future, like world records, etc.?
Yeah, I think I'll pose that one to CJ since he's kind of more ingrained in that kind of world. I think,
guy.
10, 15 years ago, no one would have dreamed of 130-pound cuberas on a pole spear, giant wahoos and kingfish and tuna.
Yeah.
So I'll let you take that first stab at that one, CJ.
So it's a double-edged sword, right? As someone who manufactures and designs gear, you're always looking for the next best thing and what is that people want, right?
Oh, I think we lost CJ.
Oh no!
Oh
no! I think he pressed the wrong button.
We timed you out. It's funny because hey, when I was spearfishing, I first started with a JBL metal spear gun, right? Because everyone had a metal spear gun, and then I went to an AB Biller, and I shot an AB Biller for 20 years. I had a line, I had a coil, I free shafted. And then I started losing all these shafts when I started shooting bigger fish. So then I went to a Reef, and then lately I've been shooting a Koa. But you know what? It's still the basic gun. It's still a shaft with bands. Yeah, maybe there's they got rollers now. You know what I mean? That's more power, bigger fish, that kind of thing. So I think it depends on where you are and what you are hunting. I primarily I'm on a reef. And so I see subtle changes from making things more streamlined for me as a diver, but a lot of it is kind of like it's just a better, mousetrap, so to speak.
Right, definitely.
Chiefy,
yeah.
Let's be honest. You want to have GPS trackers on the bigger fish.
Whoa. I tell you right now. So I learned from Doc McAllister, which was they triangulate. We lined up that building with the water tower, and then the other building with the radio tower, and that's how you knew where to go. Okay, we didn't have GPS. We didn't have GPS. Stop it, will you? So then the cool part is we get this thing called Seymour mapping. Well, but prior to that was this other program that it was like on a computer, and it didn't kind of relate to your GPS, but it outlined the reefs. Yeah. And the guys that did that, Doc McAllister, was involved in that. He's passed away since then, and Captain Darrell and Pete had a kind of a program. You bought it. It was pretty good. So I copied it, and we got a better thing. A good, better understanding of the reef structure. Then Seymour mapping about 2 years ago came out. Literally, it's a game changer. It's absolutely unbelievable from a diving standpoint. Knowing, hey, what's down here?
Total game changer.
Total game changer.
Yeah,
so
I think that's what I would add when I think of that question.
Technology, yeah.
Technology and just exploring different areas too. You know, 20 years ago, nobody really knew about Ascension Islands. And then, you know, Cameron Kirkconnell,
Right.
these guys start going there and shooting huge tunas, and then that area gets blown up. So I'm sure, you know, there's remote locations all over the world that really haven't been discovered yet. As soon as people start exploring out there, I'm sure we'll start seeing some incredible fish being shot here in the future.
All right, so we don't know what happened with CJ, but we're going to keep going here so we can finish up. So how do we ensure that our reefs remain healthy so that the generations after us can enjoy the water the way we have?
You want to take this one?
I don't know where you want to go with this one because I want to be politically correct.
I think the key is sort of education, you know, and I think it starts with
It's a political process.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a political process. And I think the more you get involved in that, the better we are.
Yeah.
We were in our Florida reefs. I just actually got contacted by somebody from the University of Florida. They did a follow-up study, and they interviewed me, and now they're asking me, oh, hey, come on back. We would like to have more input from people that are fishing, diving the reefs that we have right here. So it is a political process. Don't fool yourself. Yeah. People don't like that term, but that's what it is. And I think you need to stay on that. You need to get involved in that. And that's the cool part about social media. You can
definitely.
You can tell. You know, I have like 50 friends on Facebook. You know, I can tell them. You know?
Give us a thumbs up if you're friends with Chiefy on Facebook.
Oh, stop it. Hey, I'm on Instagram now. Instagram. Who would have thought it, right?
No.
And Chiefy Crew YouTube channel. Chiefy Crew YouTube channel.
No, I think that's the advantage that we have as divers. We're actually in the water and we get to see what's going on.
You see it.
You get to see the changes over time. You know, I'm not as old as Chiefy, but I've been diving.
You're catching up, buddy. You're catching up.
I've been diving out here a long time. I've seen the reef change over time. I've seen the amount of trash build up out there over time. So that's the advantage we have as divers. We can see this stuff and we can show other people. We can show our experiences. You know, if you're just out in a boat, you know, I grew up hook and line fishing. I love hook and line fishing, but I would fish with people that just didn't care. They didn't see it. It was out of sight, out of mind for them. So they'd drink their beers and just throw them off the boat and, you know, cut their lines in the water, whatever, because they didn't care. But as divers, we see all that stuff down there. We see that trash. We see turtles hooked up with lines, sharks hooked up with lines. And it's heartbreaking to see that. So I think it's the advantage we have as divers. I think, you know, as much as we can share that and show other people how you know, what's going on down there, it's an awesome thing.
And support what FWC is doing.
And support FWC, the scientists, the people that are making awesome efforts, companies like 4Ocean that are out there every day cleaning it up. So I think people's minds are starting to wake up. They're starting to see that this stuff is going on, and we're starting to address it now.
CJ, you're back. Woohoo! Let's see. We can't hear him, though. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
CJ, you're muted. We can't hear you.
I don't know what he's saying.
All right. I think we're pretty close to the end here.
So
that is the
end. That is the end. Let's see. I don't think we're gonna get CJ's audio back. Nope.
So,
nope.
I have a few questions.
No, you answered them all.
Oh,
good.
We got a new one. I've seen it. Oh, that's a comment. I've seen the difference in the short 7 years I've been living here and diving here. Yeah, same. It's yeah.
All right, CJ. Let's see if we can unmute you. No, wait, hold on. Let's try it one more time. Talk. Nope. I don't know what to do. All right. Well, hey guys, like we said, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. And again, what we like to do is make it social so that it's a lot of fun. And I think it was a lot of fun tonight. What do you guys think?
I enjoyed it.
If you enjoyed it, make sure that you're giving us the thumbs up, giving us the heart, giving us the smiley face emoji. And again, you guys, it is Spearfishing Month here at Force-E. And do you know Chiefy?
You know, there's a story to that, but I can't really go into those details. You know what I mean? That's kind of fun.
And yes, our freediving courses are still happening. We've got ones in June scheduled. The pools and the boats are running down here in South Florida. If you want more information, just go to our website, www.force-e.com. Just go to where it says courses on the tab, scroll down to freediving, and that's where the course schedule is. Or if you want, you can contact some of our instructors.
Yeah,
going
John,
to the store.
I'll after this video, I'll go on. I'll send you a link to the website, and maybe we can connect and hopefully get you out there.
And guys that want to be scuba spear fishermen, you know, you guys have specialty courses.
Yeah, actually, a lot of our instructors.
A lot of the instructors have that. And I would suggest that. It goes over the basics with you. And I think that's a good place to start. It really is.
Yeah, some of our instructors at our stores are definitely spear pros as well. We've got Woody up at the Riviera store, a couple guys there, and then we've got down here Sam and Greg down in the Pompano store. So we can get you guys any education that you're looking for. Just give us a call at the stores. And again, don't forget, because you watched our Facebook Live, we have a promo code to give you an extra 5% off of the spearfishing sale that we're having for the month. So the code is Spearo Hero. That's right. It's SPEROHERO, and that gives you an extra 5% just for tonight and tomorrow. And then that code goes away. So guys, make sure that you're that you're going to our website and checking out what we've got for sale. And we do have another Facebook Live next week. We're gonna be talking about lionfish with Ali from Zookeeper. The Zookeeper. Whoop, whoop, whoop. The Zookeeper. And we will also have Charlie Schramm doing a live demonstration of how to fillet a lionfish. So, guys, we love that you guys are enjoying our Facebook Lives. We'll see you all later. Thanks, CJ.